Every parting gives a foretaste of death. Every reunion, a hint of resurrection. Arthur Schopenhauer. Bending, Not Breaking. Season 2, Episode 17. Lake Laogai. And we're back with another episode of Bending, Not Breaking. I am Sunshine Mayfield.
And this is Ben Pruitt.
And we are here with our wonderful producer, Mr. Max Gongaware. Hey, Max.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back.
It's good to be here.
Super exciting to spend time together. We are recording Season 2, Episode 17, Lake Laogai right now, which you are currently listening to because that's how podcasts work.
Lake Laogai.
Which is not the fun vacation that it is painted as. It seems like a very non-vacation-y thing. Being brainwashed is not a part of what I want on a vacation.
When people meet me and they're like trying to get to know me pretty well, you know, I like to tell them I'm a pretty big Lake Laogai.
Okay. That was a joke attempt by Max Gongwer, our wonderful producer.
Works every time.
60% of the time. Ben, how are you doing? What's something you're grateful for this week? Let's throw a little gratitude out into the world. Max, I'm coming to you next.
I am grateful that I've had the opportunity to practice some forms of creativity that I typically have not given enough time to. So I've been able to play the piano more. I've been able to sing more. I mean, I have a music degree, and I don't do much music during my normal day. And now I have a chance to do that more often. And so that's been really nice. And I'm exploring other avenues of creativity. I wrote a spoken word poem the other day. That was kind of cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
You want to recite it now?
I don't.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you've had that time.
Me too.
Max, what about you? What's something you're grateful for?
I am grateful for my friends who are sociable and nice to me. I'm not great at gratitude when I don't have a few moments to think about it.
I gave you moments. I literally said I was coming to you next. It was like putting you on deck.
Well, I still wasn't ready.
He was practicing being a good listener.
But you're grateful for your friends.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you, y'all, for sharing some gratitude today. I think I'm gratitude for things like this. Wait, I'm showing the grateful things in the words. I'm grateful for just having an outlet like this where I can talk about a lot of things that are on my mind, but through a lens, through the show of Avatar. I think that's a really cool thing that I get to do on a weekly basis, and that's something I really enjoy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. What are y'all grateful for? Let us know at BNB_pod on Instagram or Twitter, or both. Yeah. All right. Well, it is time for
Lake Laogai
Uninformed Recap. Max, I assume you didn't watch this episode, but you know what they say about...
I missed it.
Oh, well, it came on in 2006.
It's called Lake Laogai.
So,
I know that. I'm a huge Lake Laogai.
So, Max, are you ready for your scenes and your keywords?
From Lake Laogai.
Yes, I am ready.
Scene 1. Sokka gets upset after the gang prints missing Appa flyers and then makes fun of his drawings. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was called dead air. I'm going to have to fix that in post.
Ah.
I'm not going to, but I should.
The next scene, or the ending scene, is Zuko and Iroh walk out of the tunnel, and Zuko drops the blue spirit mask into the lake.
Lake Laogai.
Wait, Zuko and Iroh walk out of the tunnel, and Zuko
drops the blue spirit mask into the lake.
Laogai.
Right.
Your key words are tea shop,
Tea shop?
Yeah, like a shop there where they make tea.
Ah, got it.
Jet. Memories. Cell. I'm not telling you which version.
Dang it.
Rescued. Those are your 5 keywords.
Got it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Pulling up the timer now. On your mark. Get set. Go.
The episode begins when Sokka gets upset after the gang prints missing Appa flyers and then makes fun of his drawings. So, in order to get over being made fun of, Sokka decides to go to a tea shop to drink some tea because tea always makes Sokka feel better. And I'm not sure, I don't want to misgender Sokka, so I'm just going to keep referring to this person in the third person. Then, after drinking the tea, the barista makes latte art in the shape of a jet. And everybody thinks that's really cool. And it brings back memories of a time when they learned how to fly together. They being Sokka and the Wright brothers. Because Sokka was friends with the Wright brothers back in Kitty Hawk.
10 seconds.
And that's when they sell that airplane because it's going to be worth a lot of money.
3, 2,
which will rescue them.
1,
and Zuko and Iroh
0.
walk out of the tunnel, and Zuko drops the blue spirit mask into the lake. The blue spirit mask is what they call the original airplane of Orville and Wilbur Reitenbacher.
Wasn't that the spirit of St. Louis?
Why would it be the spirit? No, that doesn't make any sense.
It was
Cool,
It was the
cool,
wrong
cool.
type of cell, Max. I'm sorry. We were looking
Well,
for like
so-
a prison cell.
I know, and that's actually what I wrote down is the correct type of cell, but then my recap just led me in a different direction than I meant to go. So,
We're going for accuracy, Max, not creativity.
to me, they're the same thing, baby.
All right. I get 30 seconds on the clock. Ben, are you timing?
Yeah, totally.
All right. You tell me when.
Go!
Sokka gets upset and gang prints missing Appa flyers, and then they have to go post them. And then Iroh gets his own tea shop, and that's cool. But Judy comes back, but it's the old Judy, not the new Judy, and so the gang's really suspicious. And then the Dai Li are watching everything that happens. And then Iroh's thinking of names, and Zuko sees the bison and the Avatar things, and so they go and chase on that. The gang ends up getting a crew together, and they meet Jet, and Jet's telling the truth, even though he's
5.
also lying. And then they go search for Appa. They don't find him, but then they get in a fight with the Dai Li, and then Appa comes and saves everybody, and then Zuko drops the blue spirit mask into the lake.
Yeah, that was an extra 4 seconds.
I'm just doing the best I can. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so our lens today.
Do you ever wonder if some people listen to this podcast on
Yes.
1.5 speed, and then when you do your fast talking 30 seconds,
It's
it's
even
just,
that much faster.
I want to hear what you sound like.
Yeah, well, typically I I listen to mine at 1.25.
You can do
I
that?
listen to mine at normal times.
Yeah.
Real time.
Yeah, when I go back and I listen to the episodes, 1.25.
I don't have that option on my device.
Interesting. I listen on Spotify,
Oh,
so maybe that's why.
I'm an Apple Podcasts guy.
Me
Oh,
too.
Brand loyal. Both of you. Interesting. I would argue most of our listeners listen on Spotify.
I would argue that's cool.
Yeah. Fun
What,
fact.
like-
You
Can
can
you-
listen however you want.
Can you cite why you would argue that?
We have data that would support that.
And you have access to that data?
Yeah.
You don't even give your producer access to that data?
It's a Noah thing. You got to talk to the EP.
So Noah has data.
yeah, he gives me the rundown report similar to in the
Listen here, Noah.
I actually have access to it, so
Yeah.
I don't even.
Noah, I know you can hear me. Why aren't you sending me these datas? And I hope you're having a great day.
You know that scene in the first episode of the newsroom where they're like Sam Rockwell, or not Sam Rockwell, Watterson.
Charlie Skinner.
Yeah, well, Sam Watterson tells, the vice president not to give Will McAvoy's ratings. Yeah, in this scenario, I'm Will McAvoy and Noah's...
Chris Messina is the actor's name.
Really?
I think so.
And
Ethan.
today we're talking about Lake Laogai.
The newsroom is so good, y'all.
And
If you
this-
have access to HBO, watch that show. It's so good.
But I am a big Lake Lao guy, so let's keep going.
All right. So, our nice segue, Max. Our lens for today is
Reunion.
reunion.
We are reunited together right now.
Reunited and it's just okay. That's how the song goes.
I don't
right?
know that song.
All right. Anyways, so reunion. How did you think about this? Because it seems to me there's different types of reunions, but you're just reuniting, right? So
Yeah, totally.
what were big reunited moments? Reunion, and not like a high school reunion.
I think there's a lot of reunions that happen in this. There's just a lot of comings and goings and people getting back together and then people getting and meeting each other and then themselves. There's reunions everywhere.
Is meeting someone for the first time a reunion or just a union?
What?
If you're meeting someone for the first time, is that a reunion or is that just a union?
I mean, it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Depends on who you ask.
I think he's right. It may there are times where I might meet somebody for the first time in this life.
Thank you, Max.
Max, I want to know, what were you in a past life?
I mean, I don't know. Could have been anything.
Max
What do you
was
think?
Appa.
What do you think?
I probably wasn't Appa, because then I feel like I would at least have some
Yep.
memories of this whole
show?
experience.
Yeah, right. Max, I don't guarantee that you remember like the last time we recorded.
What type of stereotype are you trying to pass about me right now?
Is there a stereotype?
I don't know. People with short-term memory issues.
All right. Is there a unique reunion in this that really stuck out to you, Ben?
Well, I mean, the whole episode is driving towards the reunion of Appa with the gang.
Finally.
Right?
Oh, it's been so many episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, the dog days are over. Am I right?
There's a song about that.
Yes, Florence.
Okay. So yes, it's leading to the big reunion.
Yeah.
Appa coming out of the sun.
Yeah. I mean, how did he get there? That must have been hot.
Anyways, but what a cool moment, and then just completely just destroys the Dai Li.
Yeah, I think Appa was holding back some resentment and anger towards the Dai Li.
It's like he went through some trauma.
Maybe a little. Yeah. Maybe just a little.
Okay, so that's a cool reunion. Anything else in the show that you're like, oh, that's an interesting little reunion?
Nope, no other reunions.
I would say Jet and Katara.
Ooh.
Little love connection that happened in the first season, and now
they're reuniting under Katara's being super prejudiced.
But like with good reason,
And still super prejudiced.
So let's talk about that, right? So like, how much does the last time you interacted with someone play into the way that you should interact with them the next time, right?
Probably a lot.
But does that like, if you're living outside, was Katara living outside of her value system right there?
Debatable.
So let's talk about it. I don't know if she was or not, but like, should she have been kinder to him?
I think that if it were me and I were to paint an ideal situation, I would want to, pending my safety, is if my
Privilege,
safety,
right?
if
Like,
my
we keep
safety is
talking
on,
about
if
that.
my safety is not a factor, then I would want to give the benefit of the doubt. I would want to trust but verify.
Yeah, but when safety is a factor, she doesn't have the ability in this moment to necessarily not think the worst
Sure.
because of what has happened in prior experiences.
And she starts off alone. She's not with the gang. They had split up at this point, right? And so she's fighting him off as a means of probably to protect herself, because last time he got the better of all of the group, right? So, yeah, I think that her prejudice is certainly founded and has a place, but I also am hopeful that we can move past those prejudices even when, because people can change.
Yeah, so what does that look like for us, right? Like, one, I think it's interesting things like they don't have the ability to communicate with each other outside of this experience. There's no social media. There's no, texting. So there's no way for him to have like changed his experience or changed her experience after they last met. So, and for us in the real world, what does that look like? Do we treat people without kindness because we aren't in a safe space to do that, or do we have to assume the worst sometimes? What does that look like?
I don't know if we have to. I think that it is often easier to assume the worst after you've been given reason to, right? But I also think that in the real world, I think we have a little bit more ability and capacity to fact check, right? And we can also like set boundaries, right? And say, hey, oh, I just ran into you. I'm gonna walk away and don't follow me. And I wonder if Katara could have just said, this isn't not the place or the time where I want to have this conversation. If you want to prove that you can do that, like, let's meet when I have people around me that I trust that can help protect me from you.
Yeah. Well, because typically we don't have people chasing us with swords through like city streets, but that doesn't mean there aren't other dangers that we could come across or other individuals could come across, and it almost feels like and I can't say this for certain, but like, what would it be like to see a past abuser on the streets or something like that?
Sure. I mean, in a way, like, this isn't like a literal abuser, but there's some manipulation involved, and the things that he did were certainly not okay, right? He crossed lines. There's a reason that
Several boundaries
she's
were
reacting
crossed.
this way. Like, again, it's not unfounded. And Jet has changed, right? There has been a lot of growth in this young man, right? That is evident in this episode and next episode, right? It's evident.
Yeah, well, I mean, throughout this episode, he runs into Smellerby again. There's a whole him being brainwashed thing, which brings me to my next question. Is this a moment where he's reuniting with himself?
That's what I wrote down.
Once they kind of trigger the old memories and he kind of gets brought back to
and that's metaphorical
going on
in a way. Like, how do they trigger those old memories, right? In order to trigger those old memories, in order to tap into your old self, you had to be healed first, right? There was an element of like the water bending healing factor that healed him enough to be able to get in touch with his old self. So in a way, I'm thinking about how sometimes there are things within us that we forget. There are sometimes things within us that are taught that we should we're taught about trauma. Trauma teaches our minds to react to certain things a certain way, right? And then in order to get in touch with those things, we have to heal in order to realign our brain to be able to process those. And he literally said this, I can't, it's too painful. And then Katara stepped in and said, hey, let me help you.
Which sometimes to be in our living into our most authentic selves, we need help from others.
Yeah, well, and we need to accept and receive healing. And that's not always something that we can receive. Sometimes it's something that comes within us. But I think that there's a reason why healing is involved, and I think that that's a really cool picture.
Absolutely. Sure. His transformation throughout this episode is really cool. His story arc in this episode is pretty awesome.
It could be tear-inducing.
It's better than we like him more in this season than we do at the end of season 1. Yeah, just a little bit. Let's talk about the reuniting of the gang and Judy, the real Judy, the first Judy.
Well, is it the real Judy or real to us?
The first one we know, right?
The first one, maybe, but the real one we saw in this episode, that there's like 20 of them.
There's lots of Judys. But because of their interactions with her the first time, it goes back into they ask a couple questions. They don't like the answers. They don't really trust her. But they kind of give her the benefit of the doubt to start with until she starts giving answers and being like, you can't post flyers. And then Aang's like, yeah.
I've had it.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's break some rules.
Destroy his house.
Little Toph line. Isn't Toph fun?
Sometimes.
Any other cool moments of reuniting that popped out?
I mean, I think there are several moments of reuniting for sure. I think if we go back to this idea of reuniting with yourself, I think we have to bring in Zuko, because Zuko has this like mass transformation throughout this, where I guess it bleeding into next episode, I guess, but he's facing an existential crossroads right now, and he is living a life where he's able to spend time without stress. I mean, typical, like, aside from like typical daily stresses, but he's living with his uncle, he's working, he's making a living, he's able to thrive. They've been collectively promoted to have their own tea shop. Their things are looking up from a standpoint of if that's something that you can be content with.
But that's
that
not
lifestyle.
good enough.
Exactly, and that not good enough mindset is something that he's been grappling with for a while, right? And so towards the end of this episode, when he is faced with like, okay, do I let Appa go, or do I capture Appa and figure out how to capture the Avatar? And finally, this is the moment where
we see angry Uncle Iroh.
Finally, Iroh has been so loving and kind to the point where it's sometimes we can question, like, sometimes anger is better communicator. I'm not saying it is a better communicator.
Or to act out of anger.
Yeah, I'm saying sometimes it can send a message that being calm can't.
Right.
There are cultures who grow up where teachers, I learned this when I was studying education, but there are cultures that grow up where kids don't respond to nice because they think you're joking until you yell at them. Because that's how they grow up, and that's what they're around and surrounded by. So when a kid at home, mom says, hey, it's time to go to bed. They're like, ha, and then they keep going. And then mom finally yells, go to bed. And that's when they know, oh, it's time to really go to bed now.
Mm-hmm.
But the teacher at school never yells. And so the kid continues to act that way. I mean, oh, it's not time yet. She hadn't yelled yet. Right? And so different cultures react differently to different styles. And I think that we can try again and again using one. And if it continues to fail, that's the definition of insanity. Like, and I say that somewhat lightly, but like to try something again and again without any change, right? And so at this point, Iroh's finally like, he's changed. He said, "Dude, this isn't acceptable anymore. You've got to make this choice." And I'm not saying that's what convinced Zuko, but I do think that this is a big moment.
It made him pay attention.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it did.
And then what? We're gonna give him some tea? Make him sleep in the apartment? You dum-dum! That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in this moment, Zuko chooses himself in a way that he never has before, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's always chosen his dad, right? He's always chosen Ozai and let him run his life. And in this moment, he's like, no, I'm going to choose me. This is something that, and I think that kind of reuniting with yourself is really cool.
Who are you and what do you want?
Yeah, I mean,
it's
a big question.
And it's one of those things too, because sometimes you get pitched like, oh, you're being selfish if you think about yourself. And the reality is, sometimes maybe, but sometimes you can't help other people if you're not also helping yourself. And you can't be the best person if you don't focus, the best person you can be if you're not focusing on you a little bit, if not more than a little bit.
I think we should focus on ourselves more.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
So that you can serve people better.
Yeah.
Not so that you can serve yourself better, but like focus on you so you can help others.
Yeah.
Right? Anything else worth highlighting out of when it comes to reuniting?
I just think about reunions are typically considered a good thing. And like, oh, I love to reunite with, right? Like, it seems like it's a good thing.
I've never thought about going to a reunion and had positive feelings about it.
Well, and that's kind of my next point. Like, family reunions, I'm not a big fan of. Some people really love them.
Camp reunions, I'm fine with.
Camp reunions, I love to go see those people. And like high school reunions, I wanted to go, but I couldn't. I didn't make any extra effort to go when I was told that I was going to be out of town. I was like, oh. But it was one of the...
Oh, no.
But it's interesting because, like, like this idea of union and reunion, therefore, seems like it has a positive connotation, and yet forced reunions are not something that seem as positive.
Yeah, so when you were talking about that kind of the moment that Appa thinks that he's about to be reunited with someone, or we are led to believe as the audience that Appa and Aang are going to get reunited.
Yeah.
And no, it's Zuko seeing Appa, and Appa was not happy about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about because I am called to think about the times where reunions exist in my life, and then again called to question whether, like, I don't want to go to a reunion that I don't want to be a part of, right? And I don't want anyone to be forced to take part in a reunion that they don't want to be a part of. But at the same time, the ritual of gathering and being together is also really important in terms of relationship. And I'm just conflicted. There's a lot there that I'm conflicted.
Well, I had family members. I had a grandmother who was kind of mean to me when I was growing up, and so anytime that I was told that I was going to go see her, I wasn't super stoked about it because I knew that I was going to be like, verbally tormented in my 3-day stay at her place. And I feel like that's on the easy side of things when it comes to those moments. I think about other people who are forced to go spend time with family or be in those situations and aren't able to kind of choose for themselves whether or not they're going to be there. But there's higher stakes involved, like getting your humanity questioned. And which that wasn't something I experienced. So I can only imagine they'd be that much worse. Because I knew that I didn't like my experience. So yeah, forced reunions aren't. That also like conjures up the imagery of like forced hugs and forced physical touch and things that also feel icky,
Well, and I imagine they feel icky, but they're meant well. Sometimes, but
also no, right? Like I want autonomy over what I get to do with my body and like who touches me. And
it's the same thing. I want autonomy with what I get to do with my time. Right? It's the exact same thing. Like me being able to say I don't want to go sounds very similar to don't hug me. Right? I want the autonomy of my life. Right? If we zoom out. Right? That is a very similar context. And while one is physically my body and one is my time, I feel as though being forced into any of it is not okay.
Correct.
And parents do it all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, because where's that line of, no, you're going to regret this if you don't go, and because this might be the last time you see XY family member.
Well, and that's like I feel like I'm feeling called to, because most of the time it's like I don't like get in the car. This is for your own good.
Well, it's like your physical safety, right? Like you can't stay at home by yourself. You're not old enough yet. Like you have to go.
Well, why? And I am not a parent, and I don't even know if I will be a parent. We'll see. But it's one of those things where I want to think that I can have a conversation with my child and level with them and be like, hey, I understand these feelings that you're having. Like, I don't tell me more about them so I can. And then I want to say, hey, here's where I'm coming from. This is something that we need to do as a family. And I want to respect your feelings and your thoughts on this. And this is something that we need to do. And I think we have to be willing to put in that time up front, or later on expect to deal with it and for it to take triple the amount of time later on in the form of tantrums and arguments and etc.
Because I think how many times I assume, again, not a parent on my end either, well-meaning parents lose track of time, or the conversation's taking longer than it needs to, and so it then turns to like, all right, just get in the car. Like,
yeah. And you can't I can't fault that because I have seen it. I have done it. I've been working with kids for a long time.
How many times have you had a teen conversation where you talk with them for an hour and they still don't get it, and you're like, okay, you're not allowed to do this, right? Like that's the answer.
And I have been up until 4:00 in the morning having that conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where sometimes it needs to happen, and sometimes we need to draw a line. But I'm just curious where that line is, and if that line can be moved at all for any of us, then I wonder if it's worth it. If it's just check your patience. I'm going to check mine, check yours. What does that patience look like? And can we afford to offer a bit more?
Yeah. So let's highlight some of the things what are the takeaway points from what we've recapped so far? One, the way that you leave an experience with someone is likely going to affect the way that you reunite with them later. If you've got a safety and the privilege to approach situations with kindness and assuming the best, that's what you should ultimately try to do. Forced reunions aren't a positive thing. Any other big takeaways from the recapping this episode?
I think you're doing great.
Stop, thank you. Oh.
Yeah, I'm also called as this idea of reunion as intervention. And so if we go back to that Zuko Iroh moment when Zuko is the blue spirit and is in with Appa, Zuko's not expecting that reuniting so soon, right? And that reuniting it's an intervention. He is reuniting in this moment at that time as a form of saying, hey, I want to address this thing that you're doing. Yes, I know that you're the blue spirit. Yes, I know that this is something that you care deeply about. And Zuko, it's got to stop. It's got to change. Think about you.
Yeah.
So I think that timing matters. I think that's something that is important when you think about the reunions and how you're using them and what the implications of you reuniting with someone, whether it's on their terms or not, and what is the message you're sending by reuniting with whomever you're choosing. I think there's something there as well.
It's a good point. With the purpose behind reuniting and whether that's something you should choose to do or not do.
Correct.
Yeah. The only other one that I think, so the moment where Smellerby and Jet see each other again, and they're different people, right? So
Yep.
It reminded me of reuniting with someone and where people have changed from the last time you met them.
Yeah.
And how Toph validated both of them in that experience, and how Smellerby was very open.
Yeah, she's been holding on to this, being able to tell
people are lying
for a hot minute. She's just been, keeping that under the rug.
I haven't gone back in the episodes to see, when would that skill have been useful.
Oh, yeah.
But I guarantee you there would have been times that we could have watched from early on and been like, that would have been useful.
I wonder what
that
it would
have
be
been useful.
I wonder what it would be like to go back and look at it just with that lens, just to be like, oh, she didn't say anything there.
Well, how many times in the first episode when she first meets Aang would that have been oh, you're telling the truth? 20 minutes of this episode might be discarded.
But let's go into that with the assumption that she's always had this ability, or at least she's been honing this ability for long enough to where when they meet, she still has that ability.
Mm-hmm.
What does it then mean that she is withholding it?
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
I think that's an interesting conversation, but not for this episode.
Nope. But I think what she does is important by validating the truth of both individuals, even though there's been some changes. I think that was a cool little moment. All right, Max, you got anything to add for this episode?
Not at this time.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to try potentially a new little activity, and then our devotion as we look through Reunion through the element of Earth. We'll be right back.
glad you're back and still listening. We always like it when you keep listening. That's really important for us because we like to know that you're enjoying what we're doing and what we're talking about.
Really, I just need you to click the link, and you don't have to listen. Just stream it.
Listen.
You can just stream it
And give us a 5-star review while
really,
you're at it.
Yeah, you really want to help us out when you go to bed at night. You turn on the podcast and you let it play just
The whole thing.
the whole start at episode 1 and just let it play, and then
Repeat.
you can just turn the volume down all the way. But that way, we're still getting streams.
And then the next night, do it on a different podcatcher. So if you did it on Spotify one night,
Oh, that's true.
Just
Yeah.
Stitcher the next one.
Yeah.
And then Apple Podcasts
after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then donate to our Patreon, patreon.com/thearchofE.
Absolutely.
Bonus content.
Yes.
All right.
So-
Continue, Ben.
So one of the things that we've done the past couple weeks is we have been trying this Florilegia concept where we've been picking out little sparklets from the show, little quotes that stuck out to us.
Just picking little flowers.
Yeah, that's right. And then
Florilegia.
And then we're smelling them and, seeing how they work out. And so moral of the story is we're going to try something new and we're going to test it out and see what happens. And this one is going to be a practice of imagining ourselves into the show as if we were in the same space and time that the characters are.
Ooh.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've picked a 30-second-ish clip from Avatar and from the episode Lake Laogai. And
Relevant.
yeah, it's this episode. And so what I want us to do, and I want our listeners to do it alongside us theoretically, is to imagine ourselves into the scene. And I want you to do it intentionally in a way that either pick a character that you hear and imagine yourself as that character. You can be a fly on the wall in the scene. However you are, just try and imagine yourself into the scene and see what you notice that comes up that is different and how you experience that clip. And so take a moment. If you're driving, I encourage you not to close your eyes. But if you are in a place where you can, do me a favor and close your eyes and listen and imagine yourself into this text, into this wonderful show. And let's see what happens as we imagine ourselves into the world of Avatar, The Last Airbender. Here we go.
All right, Avatar, you've caused me enough problems. This is your last chance, if you want your bison back.
You do have Appa. Tell me where he is.
Agree to exit the city now, and I'll waive all charges against you and allow you to leave with your lost pet.
You're in no position to bargain.
Am I not?
You're definitely not.
Jet, the Earth King has invited you to Lake Laogai.
I am honored to accept his invitation.
Well then.
That's a heavy scene right there. Yeah, so theoretically we've been able to imagine ourselves into it. If you want to pause right here and go back and listen to it again, and now that you know what episode we're talking about or what clip we're talking about, you can go ahead and do that. But we're just going to go ahead and figure out where we came from. So I want to hear from you, Sunshine. Where are you coming from? When you imagine yourself into this space, who were you? What were you? Where were you? What'd you feel? Tell us.
I was Long Fane.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I felt like a power shift in my direction. I'm very cocky in that moment and very confident, especially with the fact that Aang doesn't know that I've got a trick up my sleeve. And so I want Aang to leave. I don't want him bothering my Earth Kingdom. I don't want him bothering my Earth King. And I'll give him his stupid little pet back. I don't really care about that. But I'm very confident that I'm making it out of this situation in one piece without any issues.
It kind of reminds me of the scene before, as you talk about that, how he always has his Dai Li agents kind of doing the dirty work, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't do any fighting in the last scene. In fact, as soon as it started to look like the Dai Li were oh, they don't have a handle on this, I'm going to run away. They do, and that's what leads us to this scene with Jet and Aang. And he's like, oh, now that I have you cornered, I have this other trick up my sleeve.
Yes.
And it just is really interesting to, like, I want that when I'm playing games. I want to have the hidden trick up my sleeve, you know?
Yeah. So it seems like a good position to be in if you're Long Fang at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I've got other thoughts because I also like somewhat pictured myself as a fly on the wall, but I want to hear what you thought first.
Okay. So I was Aang, and I am so used to like not wanting to express my negative emotions, and I've been holding on to them this whole season. And I get to this point where finally in this episode, I'm starting to fight back. I get mad at Judy. I get mad at the world. I start to fight for Appa. I'm chasing him. And now at this point, I am so indignant that this guy has claimed that, oh, like, I have the upper hand right now. And then Jet comes in and he's like, are you sure you have a bargaining chip? You want to bargain right now? And Aang's like, no, you most certainly don't. And I just, like, I feel so mad. And then when Long Fang invites Jet to Lake Laogai with his phrase, I am not only, I felt like dismay almost, because I've been so mad for like so long, and it just, I cannot catch a break. And that's what I felt like in that moment when Jet turned his back on Aang.
Yeah.
I felt like, man, again, like there is nothing that is going my way. So that was something that came up for me that I didn't experience the first time I watched it.
Yeah. I'm Long Fei, and I sit there and I go, worst case scenario for me, Jet buys me some time. Best case scenario, he kills the Avatar. As a fly on the wall, I go, what do you think this is really going to do? Like, what? You do really think that Jet's going to take down the Avatar? It's not going to happen.
Well, I wonder if that's his real goal, because I don't think it is. I don't think he wants to take down the Avatar. You know? I think he wants to maintain control in his city. I think he wants the Avatar to go and let the city be itself while he handles all the world's problems. He just doesn't want Ba Sing Se to be involved. Right?
Maybe. But at what point, like, then what's the purpose of this fight, then?
That's a good question.
Just for me to escape? Because if the Avatar's going to come after me in 30 minutes, then, like,
well, it's like,
what's the purpose?
I wonder if it's a display of power. Right? Like, I am all powerful. I have this trick up my sleeve. I've had tricks up my sleeve this entire time, and now I'm going to show you who's in control.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's what it was.
But it's only like it's faux control. You know what I mean? It's not really control if I can only control Aang for 15 minutes and put a little obstacle in his way.
But I don't think that's how he's thinking about it, right? If I'm going to put myself in his shoes, I'm not thinking that way.
I'm thinking if I'm in his shoes, worst case scenario, this gives me some time. Best case, Jet kills the Avatar and I don't have to deal with him anymore.
That's interesting.
Because what would the other option be? You know what I mean? Like the Avatar gets trapped down there because that's ultimately what he's trying to do.
I don't think he's thinking that far ahead, honestly. Personally, like I don't think he's thinking that far ahead. I think he's thinking, how do I
survive
this moment, right? I don't think he's plotting well enough in advance to get that far. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you all imagine yourself into this scene differently and got a completely different read on some of these characters.
Let us know by sending us a voicemail to thearchive@gmail.com.
Would love to hear it.
Love some voicemails. We do find out next episode. Long Fei, not great on his feet when coming up with like little lies or little things to do.
It's true. It's true.
So, all right. Well, it's time for our devotion. Let's look through reunion through the element of Earth.
What rhymes with devotion?
I'm drawing a blank. Commotion.
Devotion.
Making a commotion.
I don't think that's a good one. We shouldn't do that.
There's a terrible theme song. And this is not the time for us to write a theme song for the devotion segment.
However, if you write a theme song, we might use it as a transition.
Dude, I would love for you to write a quick little theme song for our devotions. I think that would be lovely.
Again,
More work for Max to drop in.
gmail.com.
But he's just over here drinking tea and on Twitter, so.
Y'all make my job easy. What can I say? And I appreciate it.
All right, let's talk.
All thanks to our listeners.
Reunion through Earth, through the element of Earth. What do you got, Ben?
You know, I would be really interested to go back and listen to all of my Earth responses and all my water responses, because I wonder how repetitive I am. But I feel like after having this discussion about reunions, I'm feeling called not to endure reunions that I don't want to be a part of. And I want to stand my ground. And if it's something that I'm not interested in or I don't want to be a part of, then I want to stand firm and plant my feet on the earth and say no, and be willing to say no and draw those boundaries. That's where I'm feeling.
I'm going to cheat a little bit.
That's cheating.
Well, let's hear me out. And it's going to be cheating, but this is where
integrity is a good thing.
Really a lot like the moments of reunion where the containers are built for them to be positive experiences. And I think with Earth, when you are a grounded person and you are have an awareness of where you are and what you're doing, and then you pour in just a little bit of water, which I think is is empathy, then I think you get to really mold Earth into a great container. And I think for me, that's my goal, is that when reunions are necessary and when I want to have them, to make sure that they're in a space that is a safe container for everyone involved, to make them a positive experience. So it's a lot of Earth with a splash of water.
Balance.
It's important.
Yeah.
What are you going to do this week? Let us know. thearchiv@gmail.com.
Tweet at us.
Yeah, BNB_pod.
Instagram us.
Also BNB_pod. There's bonus content we do. Artist of the week. We do little thoughts for the week. We got a lot of fun stuff that's on Instagram and Twitter, so go follow us there. Share this with a friend. That's honestly one of the best things you could do. Is just like, if you know someone who really likes Avatar: The Last Airbender, just tell them to listen to this podcast.
That really is probably the highest quality contribution you can make.
Yeah, just share this with a friend that might enjoy this as well. Speaking
of contribution, have you noticed the great contribution to the world that somebody did during the pandemic? They created an Avatar video that was like, the Avatar was all of the hand sanitizers and distancing and everything with all of our powers combined. It was a really cool Avatar.
Staying at home is
parody.
The Avatar, yes.
Yeah, so if you can find that 30-second clip, it's worth finding.
Yeah, it's if you go on our Twitter.
Oh, I love that.
It's there. So, great. Well, thank you so much for being here, Ben. Max, thank you for being here. Next week, we're going to talk about the episode 18, The Earth King, and we're going to do that through a lens of
belief.
So join us next time. I am Sunshine Mayfield.
I believe I'm Ben Pruitt.
And this has been Bending Not Breaking. Thank you for listening.
No, thank you for listening.